In this lesson, I'm going to be talking about 8-5, which is addition and subtraction expressions. So in the following problems, you will be given a chart, and it will have some different data in it, some different numbers, and you will have to find an addition or a subtraction expression that represents this chart. So for example, if I have this chart and the top line shows the regular price of an item, the bottom line, the bottom row is showing what that item would be on sale. So I need to find what goes in this last blank here, and then I'm going to write an addition or a subtraction expression that shows the relationship between the regular price of an item and the sale price. So I'm always looking at a column. So I'm looking at a top row and a bottom row, the top row and the bottom row. I'm not trying to find an expression that shows this relationship, okay, which it's going up by 1, but that's just what we chose to put in the chart, okay. We could put any number up top, and we would need to find the number that goes on the bottom, the sale price. We're trying to find this relationship, so the relationship between the regular price and the sale price, not what's happening as you go left to right in the chart. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's go ahead and look. Over here, I have 21 and 16. I have 20 and 15 and 19 and 14. You might be able to start noticing the pattern between the two or the relationship between the regular price and the sale price. But if not, I always recommend subtracting the two numbers. Since these are addition and subtraction expressions, we're going to subtract the two numbers to find the difference between those two prices. So 21 minus 16 is 5. Then you have to make sure that that's the pattern. That could just be what's going on for one of those relationships, not all of them. So I'm going to check and make sure that the rest of the differences are also 5, and they are, so I'm good to go. So the difference between the sale price and the regular price is always $5. So now down here at the end, I can subtract 18 minus 5 to find that this should be $13 in the blank. Now I need to write an expression that represents the relationship between the regular price and the sales price. So when I'm just thinking aloud as to what happens between those two prices, I know that the sale price is always $5 less than the regular price. And they already give us a variable here of P. So your expression in this lesson is always going to start with the variable. So I have P. I need to think, am I adding or subtracting 5? I know it's something with 5, and we're either doing an addition or a subtraction expression because that's what 8-5 is all about. So I need to think, P is my top line. This line is always bigger than the sales price. The regular price up here, 20 is always bigger than 15, 19 is bigger than 14, 18 is bigger than 13. So that means that it's going to be P minus 5 because I'm not adding 5 onto this row. It's not getting bigger, it's getting smaller. So I'm taking away 5. So that means that then I could plug in any price. Let's say I wanted an item that's $37, and I could subtract 5 and figure out what the sale price is. That would be 32. So the reason we write it in an expression like this is so that you could take any number for P, and plug it in and find out that sales price. So the expression for this is P minus 5. That is what the relationship is between the regular price and the sales price, always. In this case, in this case, in this case, and so on. Let's look at another example. Okay, here we're going to find the rule. So this one is just more numbers. It's not prices or any sort of kind of word problem. It's just numbers. So we don't know what this data is for, but we can still analyze it. They already tell us that it's going to be a plus, so that's kind of nice. So again, we're going to go ahead and start with our first set of numbers. Remember, we're trying to find the relationship between the top row and the bottom row, not going left to right, okay? So I'm not just looking at these numbers up here. I'm looking at the relationship between a top row number and a bottom row number. So anywho, I have 3 and 7. So I know that the difference between those two numbers is 4, and I'm going to do that with all of the numbers here, always the bigger number minus the smaller number, to see what the difference is and make sure that it's the same thing all across the board with all of my data. And it is. The difference between the two numbers is always 4. So now I know what goes in this box. It has to be a 4. And I'm going to check and make sure. I know they gave us addition, but we always want to make sure that we have the correct sign. So if it's addition, I would be adding on to n this top row. So I do add 4. 3 plus 4 is 7. 4 plus 4 is 8. 5 plus 4 is 9. And 6 plus 4 is 10. So I'm going back and I'm checking my work. So the rule here is whatever n is, whatever's in the top row, the bottom row is n plus 4, whatever number I have up top plus 4. Let's look at another example. All right, so in this case, my space where I'm going to write my rule, your rule always goes below the variable, is completely blank. So I need to figure out if it's adding or subtracting. I also have a blank space in my chart, so I'll need to fill that in as well. So first step, we always find the difference between the two numbers in a column. I always start with the leftmost column, but you could start with any of these columns. But I'm going to go ahead and find the difference between 31 and 5, which is 26. So I'm thinking that that should be the difference between all of these numbers here, 54 and 28, and so on and so forth, because my rule has to apply to every column in the chart. But I'm going to go ahead and subtract to make sure that I'm correct. So I'm going to do 54 minus 28. And I did get 26. I'm going to do 60 minus 34. And that is 26. So I should be good to go. The difference between all my numbers is 26. So I can assume after I've done about 2 or 3 or 4, I can assume that's my rule. So I know the difference is going to be 26. So I know whatever C is, C's up top, whatever the top row is, it has something to do with 26, but I need to figure out, am I adding 26 or am I subtracting 26? C is the top row, and as I go down, my number always gets smaller, so that means I'm subtracting. Let's go ahead and make sure that we're correct. 31 minus 26 is 5. 54 minus 26 is 28. 60 minus 26 is indeed 34, so now I need to go back and figure out what goes in this blank down here. So I need to do 64 minus 26. I need to follow my rule, and I get 40. So 40 is my blank number. All right, let's look at one last example. Again, this is one where we don't know the rule, so we need to decide if it's adding or subtracting, and we also need to fill in this blank square. So first step, we always find the difference within one column, and we always do the bigger number minus the smaller number. So just because 17 comes first up top doesn't mean we have to do 17 minus 21, because then we'd get a negative number. So I always do the bigger number minus the smaller number, and I get 4. I'm going to go ahead and see if I get 4 for the rest of the columns, and it looks like I do. 97 minus 93 is also 4. So my rule has something to do with the number 4. Remember, in your rule, the variable always comes first and the number comes second. So that's why I wrote that 4 over there towards the right. And like I said, your variables, so in this case, F is my variable, always comes first. So F and something with 4, I need to decide if that's plus or minus. So I look at my top row, because that is F, and I need to decide, am I getting bigger or smaller? Am I adding on to whatever F is, or am I taking away? The top row is always smaller, so I'm adding to get to the bottom row. So whatever F is up top, I add 4 to it, and I get my bottom row. So 17 plus 4 is 21. I'm going to go back and check my work. 41 plus 4 is 45. 93 plus 4 is 97. I need to do 86 plus 4, which is 90, in order to figure out this blank square. So my rule is F plus 4. Whatever's up top, F, I add 4 to it to get what goes in the bottom row. Notice how up here, there isn't a rule or any specific thing that I'm adding to the numbers up here. The difference between these numbers, 17 and 41, is 24, and then over here, I add 25. I'm not adding the same thing every time because I'm not looking at the relationship from left to right. I'm looking at the relationship between F and what comes below it. So you don't have to always be adding the same thing as you go from left to right. We're not worried about that rule at all. All right, I want you to go ahead and try this one on your own. Draw this table on a piece of notebook paper. You need to bring this filled out, so you need to fill in the rule and what goes in this blank right here. Fill that out and bring it back for points tomorrow. Remember, your rule always starts with the variable that's given, and then you're adding or subtracting a certain number. Make sure that you are very specific and really pay attention to whether you are adding or subtracting. So as you go from M, the top row, down to the bottom row, are you adding, making your number bigger, or subtracting, making your number smaller? So try this on your own. Good luck.